everyone, welcome back to a new episode of CBNME Connect. With construction industry booming and new projects coming to life on a daily basis, our contractors are redefining project management strategies. Today, I'm joined by Severin Tenim, who is the head of strategy at ALEC, who will be sharing more details about how contractors are approaching project management strategies. So without any further ado, let's welcome Severin on this episode. Thank you for giving your time and joining me today. Before we get into everything, I want you to give a little bit of background about yourself and your journey with ALEC.
All right, fantastic. So how far back are we going?
Up to you.
All right, so I've been with ALEC for almost 10 years now. So I think May will be 10 years with the group. I've had quite a, let's say, diverse journey within the group. I started off in the MEP business at Lemco as a site engineer. I worked my way up through the business. I've done construction management, testing and commissioning, project management, running a few projects, and moved across to the main group in 2019, and I've been with ALEC Construction ever since. I've had background in innovation. So I worked on innovation, looking at our robotics and automation strategy. I then got involved with the digital committee within the group. And then following that, a bit of corporate entrepreneurship, starting off an initiative called SEALA within the group. And after that, I was setting up a sort of the pre-construction division within ALEC called Strategic Projects, where we looked at alternative engagement frameworks, call it design and build, getting involved early from the feasibility stage all the way through, and most recently now currently looking at strategy and growth.
Amazing. That's quite a journey. So that means you have a lot of experience, and so I'm going to be hoping that you will give a lot more, interesting details. And to begin with, let's talk about certain key approaches that I think contractors should keep in mind when you're working on a very complex projects.
So I think for us, planning is everything. So taking the time right in the beginning to stop is very important. And by stop, I mean taking the time to understand the project, understand all the stakeholders that you're involved with, understand how we're going to plan it and de-risk the delivery. So we almost build the job twice. And that starts right from the time we have our first meeting all the way through to when we're awarded. We almost deconstruct and reassemble the job digitally and through various methods. And then once we go live, we try and execute according to that plan and sort of manage the risks along the way.
So when we also talk about planning and execution, I think one thing which is very, very important is communication. How do you think communication is essential within different stakeholders? And when it comes to a project, how does that work and what value and strength does that hold?
Yeah, so I mean, remember delivering projects is all about teams. And to have an effective team, as you know, requires communication. It's a relationship. So when you look at delivering projects successfully, the most successful projects typically have very, very strong communication channels between all stakeholders. So, I mean, for us, it's the pinnacle, it's the key, it's what holds everything together, the glue. So for us, we try to obviously keep everything as open and transparent amongst team members as possible. Whenever there's conflict, communication resolves it, so it's trying to address issues soon before they blow up and become big. So that's a key thing. And then also having the key escalation policies, right? So on projects, we try to keep it simple in the sense that it's not a personal thing. If you and I cannot agree on something, let's escalate to the next level within 24 hours and get the resolution and move forward. Often we find projects that don't have clear communication protocols often end in conflict, and then the project gets delayed and all of those things. So that's something we try and stamp out from the start.
Something always called risk management. How does that work, and how have you implemented a strategy for risk management? If you could give me an example of a project, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I'll try and think of an example. Risk management maybe starts a bit before that. So we try and, so we've recently actually revamped our enterprise risk management protocol. So our head of risk, Amani, heads that up at a group level. And that sort of cascades down to a project level and vice versa. It cascades upwards from the projects. So it all starts with effectively identifying the risk. Then it's looking at what the likelihood is of that risk occurring, identifying the impact if that actually happens. And then we start with a mitigation processes according to the priority of the risk. So I think effective risk management is important. So it starts off with making sure that everyone is transparent enough to highlight the risks and ensuring that there's sort of not a blame culture around that. And then once that's been identified, I think it's a matter of identifying which risks are the most important to address now, and then going ahead and implementing mitigation strategies. Coming back to your questions, projects, I think, if we take a project like One Zabil, very, very complicated, a very technical structure. You have thousands and thousands of tons getting lifted up to sort of the largest cantilever lift in the world, for buildings, that is. So, a lot of the risk is around, can it be technically done? And I think a large proportion of that has been to do a large amount of studies, a large amount of peer reviews. Again, coming back to what I mentioned earlier, it's planning it digitally and then executing it physically.
So you said digitally, which is again very interesting because technology is playing a very important role on a broader scale when it comes to construction. How do you see the technology, and we can talk about AI, maybe BMI software platforms or whatever, is helping you when it comes to executing the right strategy?
So technology, the way I see it is technology is an accelerator, but it's not going to solve all of your problems.
Exactly.
So I think what we try and do is cut it back to basics, try and understand the process and what the most efficient way is to deliver a process. We even go one step back and say, do we actually need this process in the sense? Then we look at, okay, eliminate the unnecessary processes that are just creating work but no real value. The ones that remain, can we optimize them? The next step is then, can we digitize them? And once they're digitized, can we automate? So that's sort of the hierarchy follow. When it comes to tools like BIM and AI, I think AI is good when you build it up off of a consolidated database that's got good governance around it. So I think there's a lot of work going in with us and our committee at the moment on, firstly, how do we aggregate the data effectively? Then how do we build governance around it to ensure that internal data remains confidential, external data, how we deal with that, and then you look at plugging in AI. So I think we're still at the beginning, let's say the start of the journey for that. When it comes to BIM, I think we're very far along with BIM in our maturity. So we started, I think our first BIM strategy came out in 2014, 2015. And we made the decision to invest in BIM from the start, a long time before it was specified, a long time before it was mandated. And we've been rolling it out across all our projects since then.
Keeping your experience in mind, and I am going to ask you this personally, where do you see construction and tech coming together in the next 5 years?
Construction will continue to remain a very physical industry. So I don't see tech completely replacing what people in the industry do. So I think people need to rest assured that it's not going to replace their jobs. There's still going to be a place for it. I think technology will have a massive impact when it comes to supply chains, how we plan, how we digitally build and pull apart projects, how we design them. So coming up with various generative ways in which to optimize a design. So there's definitely a large play for technology in that space. When it comes to gathering information, be it telematics or sensors on site or manual input or software solutions that we use to date, I think all of those data sources will continue to grow, and there'll be more and more ways in which to gather the data. The next stream in construction will be, how do we organize it effectively? Then it's, how do we add a layer in, for example, AI, etc. But it needs to stay focused on the value and the output. So what is the outcome that we're trying to achieve? I think what a lot of technology companies find, they lose themselves in that they're trying to sell a solution, but they forget what problems they're really solving. So I think as long as technologies are based around solving problems, real problems in the industry, there's definitely going to be a continued integration of the physical and the digital.
I think I have the same opinion, but let's see how the industry is going to go ahead.
And if I can interrupt there as well, is if you look at, say, a Gartner hype cycle, I mean, construction tech is still at the very start. I mean, it's been around for a while, certain solutions, but I think what strategies a lot of players have had is around point solutions. You've got a problem, we solve this problem, we sell a solution there. I think what we'll see more and more of over the next, let's say, decade is more of a platform play where people collaborate and work together, i.e. all of the information gets pulled together into a central source, working together on a common output. So I think more of a shift towards platform ecosystems as opposed to point solutions will also be another trend that's coming in the coming.
I feel that there's so many trends that is, going, and it's going to be on a constant roll. So it's a wait and watch kind of a situation. But again, I want to ask you is when it comes to strategy, one thing which is also very, very important is uncertainty. And maybe if there is an unforeseeable situation or a disruption, how do you tend to change your strategies or redesign it or re-implement it? There are different ways to look at it, and if you could give another example of that I think that would be nice.
Yeah, no, good. So if I understand the question correctly, it's when there is an event or when something uncertain happens, how do we adjust strategy?
Yes.
So I think it's a really good question in the way that it's framed. For us, I mean, strategy is not something that's fixed. It's constantly evolving, constantly dynamic. So we see it more as a working guide on how we do things to get us to the outcome that we need. So for us, strategy is as much about what you do as it is about what you don't do. So I think our strategy is very clearly defined more around what we don't do and then where we want to go and what we do to get there, and then you have tactics that sort of get us there. So when it comes to uncertainty, I think it's a good question. When we had COVID recently, no doubt there'll be another event in the future, not as widespread as COVID, but it's the unknown. But I think for us, it's trying to take a mature view and say that strategies are dynamic, but we build it around core principles that tend to not change over time. And what I mean by that is, if I take our diversification strategy, so very simply, we've designed it around 3 metrics. Is it going to create higher margins? Is it going to stabilize cash flows? And is it going to keep the business relevant over the long term? Sustainable, right? So if what we do in diversification doesn't meet any one of those 3 objectives, we probably shouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
So keep it simple as that. When we look at it through that lens, when there's an uncertainty, when there's a change, at least we've got a guiding principle to work towards when it comes to, let's say, diversification. And we have similar guiding principles when it comes to other portions of the business, regarding operational excellence, regarding growth, regarding who we work with, regarding where we work. So we try and break it up to let's say, the essence, and then we build from that. And when there's uncertainty, we just come back, reassess our plan, and we build from there, but we don't need to come back and question the base.
I think that's fantastic. And I don't have any other questions. Do you want to add something from your side, which I think we've skipped out or something like that?
The industry is in an exciting place. The market is busy at the moment, but things can change. So I think what we need to look at as an industry is how do we more effectively work together as various stakeholders, try and standardize, try and simplify, re-look at the way we have done things traditionally, question it, and try and come up with a model that's more effective, that has less waste, that is more collaborative. I mean, construction projects are hard, they're difficult to deliver. It's even more difficult when there's conflict. So,
100%.
It should go back to the way we used to do things, right? It's trying to look at ways in which to deliver the project most successfully, make the project a success, rather than looking at the vested interest of individual companies. So I think that's probably a closing remark that I'd like to leave with, but optimistic about the future and looking forward to where we're going.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, and I think our viewers are going to really love what you've shared, and looking forward to seeing you create more strategies.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.